All right. I apologize for my last videos. I just realized that there was a bit of a humming in the video and the audio, and that's because I have, as you can see, I play guitar. So I had my my instrument cable plugged in and too close to the mic, and it was creating a bit of a hum feedback there. So it's not a lot, but it probably is a bit of annoying sound. So I'm sorry. I am not going to redo all of those videos. So deal with it. But hopefully it'll be a lot better from now on. All right. So where we left off here, so we created an application and we were able to basically navigate through the routes that we were able to navigate to, or didn't, or weren't, that we were able to access or not, basically. So let's start setting up now some of these pages. So the first thing we're gonna do is let's work on the home page. Right, we want to be able to land on the page and and have there some kind of a message or something that says, hey, welcome, if you want to log in, whatever, right? So just have a login page. And also we want to make sure that we add that capability to this login as well in the header. So we might be able to do both at the same time. So so let's go ahead and open up the home page here, and we're going to do a couple of things. So let's go ahead and import from React. We're gonna make use of our use state and use effect. And what this does is basically, use state is basically allows you to grab whatever piece of data that you're gonna work with and put it inside of a state that you can then not modify, but you can morph, that you can use that instead of modifying the data itself. So it's a copy of the data basically that you get to play around with and then recreate it and then put it back out there, and without messing up the data. And then use effect is basically a way, it's a life cycle method, and what it does is it gives you a function where you can bring in stuff and unload on the page load and change it according to any dependencies. Whenever those dependencies change, then whatever you have in the use effect will change accordingly, and you will see this in action in a few minutes. So we're going to bring a couple of things. We're going to bring use Okta auth, and that's not going to come from bundles. It keeps trying to do that. All right, that's just gonna come from Okta React, and I'm going to copy that, put it in here, because I like React to always be at the very top. We are going to make use of our use history from our React router DOM, and we're going to bring in some material stuff because I don't like this stuck here. I want it to be a little bit, have more room. So let's just, let's go ahead and bring our box from material. And then inside there, might as well just bring in our container. And there's going to be a button that I am going to be using. So all of that stuff I'm gonna be bringing in. All right, cool. So these are all the imports pretty much. Now, inside of our home, we're going to set up some stuff here. We're gonna set up a new object for our history, and we're gonna make it use history hook. All right, and then we're going to do we're gonna set up our auth state and our Okta auth. Okta auth, and then that's both are gonna come from use Okta auth. All right, so we're basically just grabbing Okta auth and put it into a state, and then we can check that state to see if the person is, what do you call it? Authorized, not authorized, if it's authenticated or not, if that person's logged in or not, right? You want when the person land on your page, And if they're already logged in from, maybe they closed the page and they came back to it, if they're already logged in, then just show them the stuff. If they're not, then don't show them the stuff. So you want to make these distinctions. You want to make these decisions before, right? You want to check for them to be authorized or logged in. And now we're going to create an actual piece of state. Const. And our user info is going to be our state name. And then we're going to put a setter so that we can pass information through the setter into our user info state. And we're going to initialize it as null. I'm gonna initialize it empty, basically. There's nothing in it. All right, cool. So that stuff is in there. Just keep it here for consistency. And now we're gonna bring our use effect function. So let's go ahead and use this snippet here. Again, this is part of the extensions that I have for React, that it kind of writes all the stuff for me. So it's cool to have, so that way you don't make mistakes, you know, dumb mistakes. Like, for example, not like this, for example, like some people miss a small tiny thing like that, and they just all of a sudden breaks everything. So all right, so we're not gonna use a callback, I think. Yeah, we're not gonna use a callback, not a callback, but a return. We're not going to use a return. We are going to use this because there's going to be some kind of instructions, and then we're going to use a dependency, which we're going to empty for now. We're going to figure that out in a second. So what are we going to put inside the use effect? We're going to basically make that distinction on the auth state right here. So we're going to copy that, and we're going to say if the auth state is false, right? Meaning it's not authorized, or if the auth state is not authenticated, do something else. Oops, there you go. Else, do something else. So what are we gonna do here? So what are we going to do if the person is not authenticated, or if the authentication is false? It didn't happen. So then we're going to basically just set the user info to null. Just going to keep it null. All right, but then what's going to happen if it is? If it is, then we're basically just going to grab from the Okta auth, we're going to get the user, and this is a function that already exists inside of Okta auth. I notice this function is not created anywhere above this, because this is coming in. This is already inside the Okta auth promise that I'm getting back, right? And then in here we're basically and then we're going to basically set up an arrow function in here, and we're going to get an object info. And what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing here, but we're going to pass the info to it. So now this user info is either going to be empty if it's not authorized, or it's going to have info in it if it's authorized. And that info is going to come from this function right here that is going to get the user information from this Okta auth. All right. And so that part is done. Now what happens every time you have it done, you need to have a catch, because something could go wrong. So what happens if there's an error? If something happens, then same thing, you need to have a function in there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to grab the error and just basically console log the error. Just to see what is it that went wrong. And now you're gonna have some dependencies here. Basically, is this dependency means that this right here is going to change if something changes. And what are some things that could change? Well, the state, the auth state for one, it could change, right? It could go from false to true, depending on whether the person is logged in afterwards, right? Came in on not logged in, but then it logged in. And then the other one is going to be the Okta auth itself, because this is what this is eventually going to come from here. So these two items in here, basically, they use Okta auth. If anything inside here changes, which are these two that I've there's a lot of stuff in here, but I am basically just destructing these two objects out of this. So I only care about these two. I don't care about everything in the world that exists in there. There's a lot of stuff in there, but I only need these two. So these two things are the only things that I'm watching, that I'm observing. Therefore, these two things are the only things that I need to see when they change. All right, so now that we have that, we need to then create what's going to happen for each one of those instances. So one is, there's going to be a return for if the auth state is came back false. So if it came back false, you need to do something with it. You need to return, you don't need this, you need to return a div that says maybe loading. But, and then if it's false, if it's true, it will ignore this and it will go to this one. And then here's where we're going to put basically our code, our nice code that is going, whatever is going to show when people arrive to the landing page. So that's where we're going to actually put the container. And then we'll just, I guess we'll put an H1. Wow, that was weird. What? Yeah, that was crazy. What am I doing? All right, let's just call it a HomePage. And then in there, we're gonna put some stuff in here now. So now, first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna show something. We're gonna show different messages according to the auth state. So if the auth state is authenticated, if it's authenticated and there is no user info, so basically it is authenticated, however the user info is empty, right? Because it hasn't arrived yet. It hasn't passed through the DOM. The response is running a little late. For example, there's low data, whatever. It's not available yet. Then you want to show a message that says loading information, loading user, please wait. All right, that's cool. Now that's one thing that can happen. What's another thing that can happen is so let's say, for example, the auth state, let's see what I have in my note here. Okay, so the auth state is authenticated. So the auth state is authenticated, and in this case the user info is available. That it finally, it came through. All right, so what do we do for that situation? And so all right, so we're gonna set up a set of instructions in here, set of stuff in there. We're gonna put a div. There we go. And then basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna welcome, and then we're gonna welcome the user info .name. We're gonna welcome the person. All right. And I'm spitballing here. I don't know if name is part of the user info or not, but we can always check that later. So basically what I'm saying is if the person is authenticated and the user info is available to us, it finally came in through the API, then just welcome him by his name, right? Because it exists. Here it didn't exist, therefore it says, hey, loading user. But here it exists, here it's available. So we use that, hey, welcome, blah, 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 right? All right, cool. And then the next one is going to be if the person is not authenticated. So now in this case, the person is not authenticated, therefore no need to even check for the user info, because if it's not authenticated, there is no user. All right, and we're going to in there put a div, and then we're gonna say if you are seeing this message, you are not authenticated to see the protected pages. What is it? What else can we say here? Please log in to authenticate your user account and get access to profile. All right, and then in there, then now right now below that, we're going to add the button that is going to log them in. So the button is going to just be called login, but we're gonna do some material stuff here. So it's gonna be variant equal contained and color equals primary, and we're going to have an on click, because a button with an on click is simply a button that doesn't do anything. It needs to have an event. So what we're going to do is we're going to call for a login function that we haven't created yet, right? So this is the event, and the event is going to do this. Now what's in there, we'll build that in a second now. So now we're gonna come over here above these returns, and we're gonna do const login equals, and then what is that going to basically do is going to it's basically going to send them to the login page that we created to run the widget, which we haven't got there yet. So that's going to be, is it going to be slash? Yeah, slash login. There you go. Slash login, history push slash login. Okay, cool. Now there's one thing. We don't want this push to happen on load right away. We want to, otherwise we're going to have a racing condition. So this needs to be an async call, so that this can happen. Wait, this is not in the right place, is it? No, yeah, that's it. That's where it goes. So this async away right here, this async right here will make sure that this happens at the same time that this information is being retrieved. So they work asynchronously. They work in different rates. They don't work. One doesn't have to wait for the next one to finish, right? All right. So now this is basically all working. Everything is being used. There's no errors. Everything works right. So if I hit save, now my home page should change a little bit. Let's wait for it to finish. And there it is. So now everything's a little bit styled. It says here that I'm seeing this message because I'm not authenticated to protect, to see the protected pages. Please log in to authenticate. So, and they're right. I'm not authenticated. So now it's telling me to click there for login, so I can get to my login, right? I also want to do that same login inside this login page and over here. Only because eventually I'm going to have a logout as well. So yeah, so we could do that. We could do that eventually. So let's just go ahead and leave it there. And then the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go to custom login and start building the widget so that I am able to log in. All right, guys, almost there, almost there. Stick around.